I can see ghosts. My father said that the dragon aura in the palace is strong, so it's definitely peaceful, and he shamelessly sent me into the inner palace. But there are more ghosts in the palace than people, and worse, the new emperor with a stiff expression seems to hear my inner thoughts. I silently complain that his great-grandfather works so hard, reading memorials behind the new emperor every day. The new emperor shudders and quickly exposes the memorials. I think about how his father's clothes are too thin, and he shivers from the cold every day. That night, the new emperor burns his father's old clothes. I have doubts, secretly complaining that the new emperor is not as handsome, witty, and perceptive as my cousin. The usually calm new emperor slams the table in anger. Didn't your father say you like calm and few words? Then why have I been pretending all this time, just to show it to ghosts? My father is the leader of the traitors, bullying others with his power and extremely cunning. As a result, no one dares to marry me, afraid that one day my family will be wiped out, and there are rumors in the capital that I can communicate with spirits, knowing what others do not. But the truth is, I can see ghosts with my left eye. My father sees me seeking immortality every day, and it worries him so much that his hair turns white. I've found out that with the true dragon emperor in the palace, there are definitely no evil spirits or ghosts. The next day, my father had someone play music and send me into the palace, where the new Emperor Wei Hung stood with a cold expression, paying respects to his ancestors. He muttered prayers to his ancestors for protection, but I really saw his ancestors. A group of old ghostly men were smiling kindly, but it was terrifying. I trembled and collapsed into Wei Heng's arms. When Wei Heng picked me up horizontally, those old ghostly men were bickering, pushing each other, making sounds like yo yo yo. I buried my face in Wei Heng's chest, my eyes rolled back, and I fainted. In my heart, I silently cried. They're all liars. The ghosts in the palace are even more numerous than outside. I passed out for 2 whole days. When I woke up, Leqing thanked the heavens with a bow and kindly wrapped me in a cloak and took me to the Hall of Diligence. Wei Hung was still reviewing memorials and didn't even look up. There's porridge on the desk. You've been lying down for 2 days, so you can only have something light. I sat on the soft chair, trembling as I drank the porridge. In my heart, I couldn't help but think, no wonder my father was so eager to send me into the palace. It turns out he wants me to keep an eye on the little emperor? Is it for me to send news to him when the family is in trouble? This heavy task, my father just handed it over to me. I have to do it well. I was deep in thought about how to send a message to my father when Wei Hing knocked on the imperial desk. Jiangxi, you're daydreaming again while drinking medicinal porridge? Or should I send someone to raid your family? Here it comes. Just as I was thinking about how to send a message to my father, this just gave me the perfect opportunity. I shifted my gaze to Wei Heng's face, and before I could force a smile, I saw an old ghost sitting on his shoulder, reviewing memorials. The old ghost seemed to sense my gaze and curiously leaned over. This great-grandson's wife is not bad-looking, but she seems a bit silly. A chill instantly wrapped around me, and I closed my eyes, rushing back into Wei Heng's arms. I had discovered that as long as I was close to Wei Heng, the cold, ghostly air couldn't get near me. I secretly opened my eyes, only to see Wei Heng's expression soften, and he even patted my back reassuringly. I'm here. I silently complained. This protective charm is warm, but please don't smile. It's a bit creepy. Just as my thoughts finished, Wei Heng's expression turned cold, and he directly picked me up and threw me onto the soft couch. Someone, bring the palace account books to the empress. Now that you're better, don't just sit idle. Also, bring 2 more blankets to the empress.
2.
Wei Heng knew very well that I wasn't good at math, yet he still asked me to calculate the accounts. Perhaps this was to seek revenge on me, or to raid my family. I reluctantly opened the account book, and to save my life and my father's, I could only accept my fate and calculate page by page. Wei Heng's great-grandfather kept muttering in my ear, "This child really isn't too bright, calculating so slowly." The total at the bottom is 6,120,000 taels. That's wrong too. It's missing 36,000 taels. Although it was a bit chilly, Wei Heng's great-grandfather was indeed useful. In just the time it took to burn a stick of incense, I had already tossed the account book onto Wei Heng's imperial desk. I proudly showed Wei Heng the completed account book, but he casually flipped a page and said coldly, "If there's even one mistake, I'll punish you." Wei Heng's great-grandfather floated above with an angry expression. "I've never made a mistake in accounting." I subtly rolled my eyes. "I don't believe you, and I don't believe your great-grandfather either." Wei Heng's hand holding the pen suddenly shook, and for some reason, he pulled me close to his side. "Block the wind for me." I leaned toward Wei Heng, taking advantage of the free warmth. "I'll make sure to block it tightly for your majesty." But come nightfall, the free warm companion pointed to the soft couch outside and told me to sleep there. I hugged a pillow, fiddling with the sleeping lotus on it, and couldn't help but think, what excuse can I use to sleep with Wei Heng? There are ghosts floating in the palace, and it's really cold to sleep alone. Not to mention, there's a female ghost with her eyes gouged out floating around the palace. A strong smell of blood hit me, and gritting my teeth, I rushed toward Wei Heng, who was lying on the bed. "Is your majesty troubled?" I reached out to rub his furrowed brow. "Why do you always frown even while sleeping?" Wei Heng took my hand. "What? Is the empress going to treat me like a warm water bottle again?" Wei Heng's robes were slightly open, revealing a large expanse of pale, jade-like chest. I swallowed hard. "I'm just worried about your majesty. If the empress can't sleep, why don't we do something that might make you sleepy?" I hurriedly scrambled off Wei Heng and clutched the blanket tightly. My father said I came in to avoid ghosts, but he didn't say anything about serving the emperor at night. A gust of cold wind blew through, and I silently scooted closer to Wei Heng, thinking to myself, with so many eyes in the room, what can we possibly do? Just as I was about to pull the blanket tighter, Wei Heng suddenly got up from the bed and retrieved a peachwood sword, hanging it inside the palace. The room immediately warmed up by a couple of degrees. I looked around, and indeed, it seemed much cleaner. I obediently hugged my pillow and bowed slightly to Wei Heng, quickly making my exit. "Then I'll sleep on the soft couch. I won't disturb your majesty's rest." But as I was sleeping soundly, Wei Heng, who had 2 dark circles under his eyes, woke me up. "Get up. I'm going to court, and you can't be idle. Go to the Hall of Diligence and calculate last year's inner palace accounts." "Are you even human?" I wiped my mouth, half asleep. "What's wrong with you? Why are you messing with me again? Do you think you're 16? Wei Heng crossed his arms, his face growing darker. "And you still have the nerve to say that?" I instantly woke up, scrambled up, and covered his mouth. "Your Majesty, I was confused from sleep. I'll go to the Hall of Diligence and calculate 10 years' worth of accounts right now." At the Hall of Diligence, I picked up a pen, waiting for Wei Heng's great-grandfather to help me with the calculations, but he just casually sat on the rafters, swinging his legs. Even when Wei Heng returned from court, the old ghost didn't bother to come down to help. I obediently curled up next to Wei Heng to calculate, but Wei Heng's great-grandfather started practicing boxing in midair. "You little brat, still making mistakes at this age, embarrassing your great-grandfather." I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "What are you laughing at?" My quick mouth blurted out. "You're so old and still making spelling mistakes." I immediately realized and slapped my mouth twice. Wei Heng, who was reviewing memorials, glanced up. "How did you know I made a spelling mistake?" My heart started to race. Should I let Wei Heng believe that I'm psychic, or should I let him believe his great-grandfather that he made a mistake? If I can't explain this, will Wei Heng think I secretly looked at his memorials? Wei Heng glanced around the hall, his voice cold. If the empress can't explain herself, I might have to conduct a major interrogation. Wei Heng's great-grandfather also conveniently floated to my eye level. "I also think you're up to something. Your eyes keep following me." Before I could come up with an excuse, Stewardson rushed into the hall, panicking. Your Majesty, the imperial seal is missing." I widened my eyes. What's missing? Wei Hung can lose his food, but can he lose his seal too? Is there a tumor on his neck? A chill ran down my spine, and all the hairs on my body stood up. I realized that just a moment ago, I was the only one in the hall. This can't be pinned on me, can it? 3. I slapped my thigh and declared my innocence repeatedly. I haven't gone out since I came in. If your majesty doesn't believe me, you can search me. I angrily stretched out my arms and even kicked the old ghost. You've been in the hall the whole time. Did you see anyone steal the jade seal? The old ghost suddenly jumped up. Aren't you pretending not to see me? Wei Hung, confused, leaned over. Who are you talking to? I steeled myself and openly said, your grandfather. Wei Hung looked at me in doubt, and I reached out and poked the old ghost standing next to me. Could you tell a little secret between you two? After thinking for a moment, the old ghost said, when Xiaohan was 7, he wet the bed and blamed it on the dog named Do Bao he raised. He also stole his father's dear blood wine and ran around outside bare-chested for a whole night without cooling down, causing him to bleed from the nose for 3 days. He was precocious, too. When he was young, he liked a cousin who entered the palace to study with him. For some reason, that kid didn't come back afterward. I awkwardly pondered for a while. Do Bao wet the bed on your bed when you were 7. Your body's quite strong. Running around outside without a shirt all night still made you bleed from the nose. Wei Hung, half believing, asked, so why isn't my grandfather at the royal tomb? The old ghost immediately flared up. After I died, my soul didn't leave and has been trapped in the palace all along. I weakly raised my hand. So, did you see who stole the jade seal? The old ghost's anger subsided. I'm not in the palace every day. I'll go ask the other ghosts. But the jade seal should still be inside the palace.
Ikan sense italià.
I sighed and met Wei Heng's inquisitive gaze. Your grandfather doesn't know why he's stuck here, and he hasn't seen anyone take your jade seal, but he's gone to ask. I watched the old ghost hurriedly leave and handed Wei Heng a cup of tea. Before proving my innocence, I wouldn't leave the Hall of Governance. Not long later, the old ghost came back with a child ghost, panting. Ask him, he's like your little grandfather. I expertly lit a stick of incense, and the child ghost took a few deep breaths, then spoke non-stop. At the hour of the dog, 9 to 11 p.m., last night, a man disguised as a eunuch came and took the jade seal when he was tidying up the hall. I asked in confusion. How do you know he was disguised? The child ghost rolled his eyes. I saw him watering flowers. I turned to Wei Hung, who was dumbfounded, and explained. Wei Hung immediately sent Sing, the attendant, to investigate the little eunuch who had been on duty the previous night. Wei Hung walked around the hall close to me. So, you really can see ghosts? My grandfather did have a younger brother who passed away young. The child you just described looks very similar to the portrait. I rolled my eyes. What would I lie to you for? Your little grandfather is holding your hand right now. Wei Hung shivered suddenly and quickly grasped my hand. Empress, you're cold. Let me warm you up. I couldn't help but mutter to myself. He's quite bold. His food has been stolen, and he's still thinking about holding hands. The 2 humans and 2 ghosts sat in silence until Tsung entered the hall and broke the awkwardness. Your Majesty, the eunuch Fu Shun, who was supposed to be on duty last night, is dead, and his eyes were gouged out. I shuddered. He died with his 7 orifices bleeding? Tsung was startled. How did the Empress know? The child ghost raised his hand. I know. There's also a ghost sister in the palace like that. I leaned close to Wei Heng's ear and whispered. There's also a female ghost in your sleeping chamber, bleeding from all 7 orifices, her eyes gouged out. Wei Heng looked up and asked the heir, are there many ghosts like that in the palace? Your grandfather is here. I shifted Wei Heng's direction. Wei Heng's grandfather shook his head. I think I saw a male ghost when your grandfather ascended the throne, but after that, I couldn't find him again. While I was talking to Wei Heng's grandfather and repeating it to Wei Heng, I turned and saw Tsing trembling with cold sweat. Empress, Should we get someone to exorcise the ghosts first? 4. Wei Heng ordered an investigation into the palace servants who had died under suspicious circumstances, with particular focus on having Tseng, the attendant, check their birth dates. I understood immediately and asked, "You mean someone is using living souls to summon spirits?" Wei Heng nodded slightly. "I've already ordered an investigation to see if anyone is keeping an alchemical furnace in the palace." I quickly connected the dots. A human furnace. I've heard that some people use their own bodies as a furnace, absorbing the pure yang energy of the heavens and earth in search of immortality. I spent the whole day with Wei Heng in the Hall of Governance, going through the palace's records. Tseng and his team searched the entire palace, but didn't find any alchemical furnaces. It wasn't until we returned to the sleeping chambers that Wei Heng, still murmuring about the ghostly matters, didn't even notice when I lay beside him. He muttered, and I thought to myself, this female ghost, bleeding from 7 orifices, was poisoned to death? Did she see something she shouldn't have with those empty eyes? And this blood color doesn't seem right. What kind of good ghost bleeds black blood? Suddenly, Wei Heng turned over and covered my mouth. "Jiang Shi, it's late at night. Can we stop talking about scary things?" I didn't say anything. I was stunned for a while, then added, "You can't hear my thoughts?" This time, I said it with certainty and my face darkened. "So, you know I can see ghosts? And you can hear what I'm thinking?" Wei Heng awkwardly turned away from me. "I'm tired. I need to sleep. I have to get up late for court tomorrow." Perfect timing to change the subject. I angrily slapped the back of Wei Heng's head. "Get up and work." I held my peach sword and, softening my tone, called out, "Miss, do you know who killed you?" To my surprise, the ghost of the palace maid screamed, black blood continuously pouring from her eyes. "She can see me. She really can see me." The palace maid ghost came closer and closer. I shuddered and crawled into Wei Heng's arms, frantically grabbing at his sleeping robes. Wei Heng swallowed hard and patted my trembling body. "You saw that female ghost again?" I quickly buried my head into Wei Heng's chest, casually resting my hand on his chest. Wei Heng cleared his throat and took my hand away. "Control yourself. What's there to be shy about? It's just warming my hands." I punched Wei Heng hard. "It's not like we haven't slept on the same bed before." "Jiang Shi, you still have the nerve to say that?" Wei Heng gritted his teeth. "You dressed as a man and became my companion reader, making me think." I leaned in close to Wei Heng, curious. "Think what?" "Think that I, as a Don Shu, a man who likes other men, fell for you." I couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. "So my father didn't tell you I dressed as a man to stir things up in the palace?" Before I could laugh anymore, the maid ghost's enlarged face appeared right in front of my eyes. "Didn't you ask me how I died?" My body jerked, and I fell backward, completely into Wei Heng's embrace. "Please, tell us." The maid ghost's cold hands gently touched my face. "You're not my sister. My sister is still in Leqing Hall." I tapped Wei Heng's leg. "Leqing Hall is a deserted palace, isn't it?" Wei Heng shivered and tightly hugged me. "Leqing Hall has been uninhabited since it caught fire, but old Tseng went to check today, and Leqing Hall is empty." My courage surged, and I grabbed Wei Heng and started walking out. "Let's go. Follow the maid ghost to Leqing Hall. Maybe she can lead us to the Jade Seal." I'm not scared of ghosts anymore, but Wei Heng is. Wei Heng grabbed me tightly. "Why don't we go tomorrow during the day?" Which ghost would be out during the day to guide us in the sunlight? I slapped Wei Heng's face. "Don't be scared. With your grandfather and little grandfather protecting you, and my years of research on ghosts and gods, I'll make sure you stay safe." But when we got to Leqing Hall, a chilling cold breeze made my bones ache. Wei Heng expertly tightened my cloak, then instructed Tseng to bring the national teacher and 2 teams of black-armored guards. The maid ghost circled Leqing Hall several times before stopping in front of a wall and repeatedly banging her head against it. "Sister, sister." The flames behind us blazed bright. I gathered my courage and cautiously approached. "If we can't get through here, should we try another route?" "She's a ghost. So how could there be a wall she can't pass through? I suddenly realized, walking around the wall and inspecting it, I couldn't find anything wrong. Wei Heng touched the wall, then turned to instruct the black armored guards to smash the wall open. Inside the wall, there were shriveled corpses, their 7 orifices bleeding and their eyes gouged out.
5.
Until dawn, the bodies in the wall were still not fully excavated. The child ghost counted the corpses on the ground and said in confusion, "But there is still no sign of my elder sister's body. I've never seen the spirits of these people before." The maid ghost floated in front of a female body and let out a piercing wail. "Sister, sister." Wei Heng's great-grandfather also recognized one of the bodies. "Isn't this Jiang Fuhai, the eunuch who served your great-grandmother?" Old Sin pointed to another body. "This is the young eunuch Xia Nian from the Shangling Garden, isn't it?" Before they could make further identifications, the first rays of sunlight in the morning touched the bodies, and they instantly turned to ashes. Countless maggots poured out of the ashes. "It's goo." Wei Heng stood in front of me. "When my grandfather and my father's emperor passed away, this same kind of goo worm appeared in their bodies. So someone has been making goo in the palace, and this person may have been harming your Wei family for generations. It's likely that the missing imperial seal is also related to this matter." Wei Heng glanced at the lightening sky. Things are about to get chaotic." I couldn't help but feel uneasy. Could it be my father? Only my father would dare to move the imperial seal in the court. If he were to rebel, he would first bring me back. Wei Heng gave me a sharp knock on the head. "If it turns out your father did this, I'll keep you here as a hostage." Damn it, I forgot that Wei Heng could hear my thoughts. I quickly smoothed things over. "Your Majesty, don't worry. I'm yours in life and yours in death." To show my loyalty, I took care of Wei Heng day and night. In the morning, I brought him wash water, but a whole basin splashed onto Wei Heng, making him shiver and runny-nosed. During meals, I served him soup, but accidentally burned his hand with the hot broth, making him tremble while dealing with court documents. At night, I tried to warm his bed, but the more I tried, the cooler it became. Wei Heng had 4 fire pans placed inside his hall, but he caught a chill in the first half of the night and got heatstroke in the second half. Under my care, Wei Heng endured endless misfortunes. He suffered small illnesses continuously. His 3 souls and 7 spirits almost left him to meet his great-grandfather. However, I did prove to be useful at times. For example, when Wei Heng kept making me wake up early to accompany him to the Leqing Hall to handle court documents, I had a strong feeling something was wrong. I grabbed Wei Heng's hand and took 2 steps back. "Don't go in. Something's wrong inside the hall." Tsineishi, who was beside Wei Heng, quickly entered the hall and checked around. "Your Majesty, there's nothing unusual inside." Wei Heng, however, casually held my hand. "Since the empress says there's a problem, keep investigating." The sun was shining, and I sat with Wei Heng outside the Leqing Hall, sipping tea while watching them rummage through the hall. "Your Majesty, we found some pebbles in the potted plants at the southwest and northeast corners." I took the smooth stone from Tsineishi and threw it into the boiling water in the teapot. After a series of cracking sounds, the pebbles split open and white long worms crawled out. "They're the same as the ones in Leqing Hall." Wei Heng leaned over to take a look. "Send these to Jiang Tai for investigation." I was waiting for Wei Heng to reward me, but he simply said, "Make up for your mistake," and that shut me up. So I was even nicer to Wei Heng. While Wei Heng was being tormented by me, he was also busy investigating the missing imperial seal and the political unrest in the court. I was still thinking about how to treat Wei Heng even better when he grabbed my wrist. "You don't need to do anything, just stay with me, and that's enough." This guy couldn't handle affection. I rolled my eyes and pulled 2 lumps of cotton from the cushion, stuffing them into Wei Heng's ears. "If you dare listen to what I'm thinking again, I'll kick your skull open." I angrily flipped through the ancient books Wei Heng had found for me. "Your Majesty, I remember you said that when your father and grandfather passed away, there were those maggots, right? Could it be that someone is poisoning the food around you?" You should have the imperial physicians check and also examine the bedding. I spoke for a while, but Wei Heng calmly pulled the cotton out of his ears. What did you say? I pounded my chest, almost choking on my words. You, Wei Heng's great-grandfather, who had been absent for several days, suddenly appeared in front of me. What did you two do at night? Why do you look so pale? I poked Wei Heng. Your great-grandfather is back. Wei Heng skillfully lit incense in the censer, then waved his hand towards the air. I grabbed his wrist and turned in that direction, asking into the air, what have you been busy with lately? I've been leading a group of ghosts to search through the palace, and we found that the Nanwu Palace in the northwest corner seems to have a barrier. We can't get in. Just as I was relaying this to Wei Heng, Tsineishi, who had come to deliver tea, glanced at the register I had spread out on the table. This register doesn't seem right. Wei Heng gave Tsineishi a look, and Tsineishi understood, ordering people to summon Zhang Shun, who was in charge of the register. But when Zhang Shun entered the hall and saw the register, his face changed. He gritted his teeth, then collapsed to the ground. Wei Heng suddenly pulled me back a couple of steps, and Zhang Shun's mouth overflowed with countless white maggots. Tsineishi stepped forward and peeled a piece of human skin from Zhang Shun's temples. Your Majesty, this isn't Zhang Shun. I shuddered. Not everyone in the palace is who they seem to be. This is getting dangerous. So there's no time to waste. I'll send people to search Nanwu Palace now. Wei Heng turned to look at me. You stay here in the Leqing Hall. I'll have people protect you. What if something happens? Can you communicate with your great-grandfather? I rolled my eyes at Wei Heng, drew the soft sword hidden in my sleeve, and said, You couldn't beat me when you were 15. You think I need you to protect me? 6. The setting sun hung at an angle, and although the sky hadn't fully darkened, the atmosphere in the South Wu Palace was heavy with oppression. Wei Heng pulled out a stack of talismans from his pocket and carefully applied them to both of us. Did you hear that dripping sound? Wei Heng tightened his grip on my hand. It's coming from inside this hall. I tilted my head and listened for a while, but only heard the wailing wind echoing through the hall. Who? Don't play tricks. Wei Heng took out a small peachwood sword and held it in front of his chest, then casually handed me one as well. Master Qing Yun blessed it. We both cautiously took a few steps forward, and suddenly, the solid stone floor gave way beneath us, revealing a large hole. The sound of falling bricks drowned out our cries for help. I touched the soft, fleshy cushion beneath me, gasping for breath. Your Majesty, are you all right? Wei Heng let out a muffled groan and whispered, Maybe you should get off me first, and then ask if I'm all right. I hurriedly scrambled up and helped him to his feet. Sorry. Looking at the furnaces scattered throughout the hall, I asked, Does your palace have a tomb? I don't know either. Wei Heng shook his head. I've seen the layout of the palace, but this hall isn't on the map. The person who refined the poison was following the formula for breeding poisonous insects according to the 8 stars, 9 passages, and 12 gates. I circled the pile of furnaces, counting for a while. He had to kill 29 people. He should have already killed 28. I pointed to a figure in the darkness, who was as white as a ghost, and asked Wei Heng, Can you see that pale old man? Wei Heng nodded, clearly confused. Yes, I can. Then he's not a ghost. Call the black armor guards to arrest him. I let out a breath of relief. These furnaces are definitely connected to him. Arrest him and interrogate him first. Perhaps our voices were too loud while conspiring, but the pale old man, who had been sitting in the corner, slowly stood up. His legs were like wooden posts, covered in writhing cocoons of insects. With each step, more cocoons fell to the ground. I couldn't suppress the queasiness in my stomach and vomited. The pale old man shouted angrily, Are you pregnant? How could you be pregnant? A ringing sound echoed in my ears, and countless images flashed uncontrollably in my mind. Pregnant my ass. You're just disgusting, I muttered, wiping my mouth with Wei Heng's sleeve. After all these years, you still haven't perfected your technique? Wei Heng looked at me, completely perplexed. Do you know him? The old man's voice was thunderous as he looked at Wei Heng and said, "This girl actually saved your life. When I wanted to kill you to feed my poisonous insects, she saw me and slammed her head on the stone steps. You left the Southwu Palace to save her. Otherwise, I would have killed you and left this dark, underground palace long ago." "Stop rambling. You've gotten your path all wrong," I interrupted, pointing at the alchemy furnace. "When you learn the way of cultivation, you should read first. Didn't your master tell you? You should place the poison in a mother furnace when you're refining poisonous insects, so you don't need to feed them with your own blood. With your skill level, you're still using people to breed insects. You've turned yourself into a giant by now." While I was bickering with the old man, Wei Heng suddenly spoke up in a low voice. "Is it worth it, giving so much to the Qin family?" The old man froze for a moment. "How do you know I'm from the Qin family?" Wei Heng's words cut deeply. "I not only know you're from the Qin family, but I also know you were sent to the palace as a eunuch when you were 15. You're here, neither human nor ghost, using the palace to breed poison for the Qin family, setting up dark plans. Do you think it's worth it?" The old man leaned against the furnace and slowly sat down. "Of course it's worth it. Your grandfather didn't have any shame. The Qin family helped your grandfather conquer the kingdom, but he was still fearful of us. On the surface, he made the Qin family a foreign royal family, but sent them to the northwest. My family guarded the land for 4 generations." The old man became more and more agitated. "For all these years, I've been scheming in the palace. I made your grandfather and father die young, making it difficult for your family to have descendants. I never expected they'd have you. But that's fine. After tonight, you'll be joining your father." The sounds of fighting came from outside. The old man laughed madly. "The Qin family has arrived. There's nothing left that can restrain me now." I pulled my soft sword from my sleeve, considering my chances of getting Wei Heng out when Wei Heng tightly grasped my hand. "Jiang Shi, I will never leave you alone here." Our eyes locked in a moment of genuine emotion when suddenly, the sound of horse hooves reached our ears. Prince Chunli, riding high on his horse, looked down at Wei Heng and me, trapped below. "Wei Heng, the black armor soldiers in the palace are under my control now. If you surrender, I'll spare her life." I scratched my head and daydreamed for a moment. Well, being spared would be nice. Wei Heng gave me a look of exasperation before turning to Chen Li and speaking calmly. "Don't you think something is wrong, King Chen? Still trying to bluff me when your death is imminent? The palace is already under my control. What tricks do you have left?" Chen Li swung his sword and commanded, "Attack. Leave them with a complete body." I tightened my grip on my sword to buy time. "Wait, didn't you just say you would spare my life?" Just as I was about to make a move, I caught a glimpse of my father. My father, with his men, had set up a dense row of arrows aimed at Chen Li. "I truly regret betraying your trust, Your Highness. It seems the Prime Minister and you cannot walk the same path." The Prime Minister pretended to submit to me. Chen Li reacted swiftly. "So the Jade Seal was a decoy?" Wei Heng nodded. "You finally figured it out. If we hadn't given you the Jade Seal to lower your guard, how would we have been able to root out all your spies in the palace? The spies in your Qin family are too deeply planted, even faking the books of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, using the national treasury to fund your soldiers." Wei Heng's words were sharp and pointed. If it weren't for the empress checking the accounts and finding discrepancies, I might still have been kept in the dark. I feigned innocence. "I thought you were just making me do the accounting because you had nothing better to do." Wei Heng smacked my hand lightly. "Don't interrupt. You're much smarter than your father." Chen Li gritted his teeth, seething with anger. "Even if I can't kill you myself, come dawn, you and your father will be nothing but ashes." "Even the Prime Minister, did you really think I would trust you just because you allied with me? Are you talking about those insect eggs?" Wei Heng asked, his tone unshaken as he looked at Chen Li. "I found the eggs and ordered Dr. Jiang to develop a cure. I've already mixed the antidote into today's food. So, tonight, the only one in the jar is you. But I don't plan on sparing your life." 7. Sunlight spilled across the ground, and the coldness surrounding me slowly dissipated. I looked at my father, who wore a serious expression, and at Wei Hung, who was deep in thought beside him, and couldn't help but laugh in anger. "Oh, so you two kept this for me? You two are a perfect match, aren't you?" I angrily stomped off, but before I knew it, the pale old man sitting in the corner suddenly stood up and lunged toward Wei Hung. Before my mind could process it, I had already positioned myself in front of Wei Hung. Just when I thought I was about to meet my end, Wei Heng's ancestor, who appeared out of nowhere in his spiritual form, shifted the old man's sword by a mere 2 inches. The sharp blade stabbed into my shoulder. Wei Hung, looking horrified, called out loudly to his ancestor, whose form was now visible in midair. "Great-grandfather." "Physician." My father leaped forward, shouting even more panicked than Wei Hung. "Physician." The physician bandaged my wound, but Wei Hung was still in shock, his voice filled with unease. You saved my life again." Furious, I punched Wei Hung. "So now you realize it was again? If it weren't for me banging my head on those stone steps back then, you wouldn't have been so scared that you clung to me to find a physician. You'd probably be dead by now." Wei Hung stared at me seriously. "Then why did you block the sword for me today?" My cheeks flushed, and I gingerly touched the wound that had been torn open. Tentatively, I responded, "I was worried about your majesty getting hurt. If your majesty feels I've done well, then perhaps you could reward me with one of the peach swords that Master Qingyun consecrated?" I quickly changed the subject, pretending to be wronged as I looked at Wei Hung. This sword really hurt me. As soon as I spoke, tears welled up in Wei Heng's eyes. I was pretending. It doesn't hurt at all. I hurriedly wiped away his tears, then hastily took off my nightclothes. "See, it's not a deep wound." A cold wind blew, and I couldn't help but shiver. The next moment, something warm pressed against my shoulder, and I shuddered in surprise. What kind of trick is he playing now? Wei Hung reflexively embraced me. "Why are you shivering again? Is there another ghost in this hall?" I pulled out 6 peachwood swords from beneath the bedding. "You hide so many peachwood swords. Which ghost would dare to come?" Wei Hung, still uneasy, peered around the hall. "Do you think there's a ghost watching us in here?" I pulled him back and kissed the corner of his lips. "The two of us can see ghosts, and wherever we look, it's just the two of us." The candlelight flickered, disturbing the stillness of the starry pool.
8.
It was a night of sweet dreams, but there's always someone who disturbs your peaceful sleep. As the sky brightened, Wei Hung pinched my cheek. "Accompany me to the Hall of Governance for breakfast. I've ordered the kitchen to make some stomach-nourishing porridge for you." I pushed his hand away from my face. "Today, no one is taking me out of this bed." Wei Hung chuckled and leaned beside me, wrapping his arms around me. "All right, since there's no court today, I'll stay with you." I sprang up abruptly. "Get up, let's go drink the porridge and nourish our stomachs." Laughing, Wei Hung took my hand and led me outside. Suddenly, an old man lunged at us, his eyes gleaming as he stared at my stomach. "She must be pregnant by now, right?" I stumbled, thinking, it can't be this soon. Wei Heng's great-grandfather murmured all the way to the Hall of Governance, and after inhaling 2 incense sticks, he threw a thunderous remark. "I'm leaving. I'll take all the ghosts in the palace with me and have them reincarnate." I sighed and told Wei Hung to bid farewell to his great-grandfather. Wei Hung knelt and bowed to the air in the proper manner. "You've bowed the wrong way." I kicked Wei Hung lightly to adjust his posture and casually relayed his great-grandfather's message. "From now on, calm your mind before facing any challenges. Don't keep everything bottled up inside. Try communicating with others." When Stewardson entered the hall, he saw this and quickly retreated, trembling. "Wowu, ancestors, please watch over us. The emperor is so henpecked. What will happen in the future?" Extra. Wei Hung. When my father asked me to choose a study companion, the prime minister sent his distant nephew, Jiang Shi, to me. My father said that a ruler should not show their emotions, and keeping a neutral face makes one seem more dignified. But Jiang Shi didn't care at all. He didn't watch my expression or worry about me being the crown prince. He would often act foolishly, making faces, copying my homework, and bringing strange things from outside the palace that distracted me. But later, when Jiangshi caught a cold and stayed home to recover, I suddenly realized how empty the palace felt. I sat beneath the grapevine that Jiangshi had planted and sank into a state of panic. When there was nothing to do, I wondered what that scoundrel was up to. I sat up straight and tried to focus on my reading, but Jiangshi's voice kept echoing in my ears. "Your Highness, you need to move around after reading for a while, or your back will stiffen. Your Highness, when there's nothing to do, go out for a walk, or your limbs will lose strength. One day, you won't even be able to beat me." I was frustrated, but when I saw Jiangshi sleeping under the grapevine in broad daylight, I felt strangely at ease. I lowered my head and kissed the corner of Jiangshi's lips. It was surprisingly soft. Shaking, I slapped myself hard. I was the only child in the family. I had responsibilities. How could I develop feelings for a man? I began deliberately distancing myself from Jiangshi, but someone sent me a letter saying that Jiangshi wanted to meet me at the South Wuhu Palace. The South Wuhu Palace had been abandoned for a long time, with snakes and insects everywhere. What was he doing there? But when I searched the palace and couldn't find Jiangshi, I was about to go inside when Jiangshi appeared, his head covered in blood, and pushed me. "Go, Your Highness, hurry." I held onto Jiangshi and ran fast, the warmth from his fingers making me panic. What if Jiangshi died? Just as the physician was about to treat Jiangshi, the Prime Minister rushed in and took him away, saying Jiangshi had a hidden illness and that the family physician would treat him. My father said someone had intentionally lured me to the South Wuhu Palace, and Jiangshi had saved my life. When I was about to go to the Prime Minister's house to thank him, my father stopped me, saying Jiangshi needed to rest because his head was injured. The spies at the Prime Minister's house reported that Jiangshi might have been frightened. When he woke up, he claimed to see ghosts. I visited Jiangshi several times, but each time, he was in a deep sleep. As I was running back and forth between the Prime Minister's house and the palace, my father passed away. When my father passed away, just like when my grandfather passed, countless maggots crawled out of his 7 orifices. My mother thought the Wei family had been cursed, so she went to the temple to pray for the Wei family's peace. When I went to Qingyan Temple to visit my mother, I unexpectedly saw Jiangshi dressed as a woman. Old Stewardson said it might be because the cousin and cousin-in-law looked alike. But I laughed out loud. That woman was Jiangshi. Even the small mole by her eye was the same. As I was thinking about how to torment Jiangshi, the Prime Minister said that the Qin family in the northwest had made unusual moves. They had repeatedly tested the waters, trying to form a marriage alliance with him. On the surface, the Prime Minister opposed me at every turn, but in reality, we were on the same side. My mind worked quickly, and I had the Prime Minister send Jiangshi into the palace. This way, the Qin family would think I was using Jiangshi to threaten the Prime Minister, and they would try harder to win him over, revealing even more of their hidden intentions. But the Prime Minister pretended and said he only had one daughter, named Jiangshi. Jiangshi is Jiangshi. After Jiangshi entered the palace, I unexpectedly discovered that I could hear her thoughts. Even more absurdly, she could really see ghosts. What was even more shocking was that my great-grandfather's soul had been by my side the entire time. With the right timing, place, and people, including the ghosts, Jiangshi and I continued to root out the Qin family's spies in the palace and eliminated Qin Li, who was colluding with foreign rebels. More importantly, I confirmed that Jiangshi was indeed a woman. I truly didn't have a broken sleeve. But good times didn't last long. After being deeply affectionate for a few months, Jiangshi left, leaving a letter saying she had gone traveling to seek a cure for her eyes. I was left alone in the palace, unable to see ghosts, clutching my peachwood sword, and feeling on edge. What kind of good person becomes an empress?
The end.